Hello, everybody, and welcome to the January 29th, 2019 edition of the Ephrom Josine Show. I'm your host, Ephrom Josine. Anyway, so Khrushchev is at it again. And by that I mean now she's attacking Kamala Harris. Now, I don't particularly like Kamala Harris, for the record. I like her more than Courtney Khrushchev, though, although that's not very hard. Her column is entitled, Dear Kamala Harris, You Anti-Gun, Opportunistic, Hypocritical Skank. So you know you're on the intellectual level here. Dear Slutty Kamala. Very clever nickname. Firstly, why do I call you a slut? Because you're Courtney Khrushchev. At this point, I just expect you to insult people without much reason. Because according to your ex, former Mayor William Brown of San Francisco, you're a slut. If you find the word slut offensive, she just goes on like this for a paragraph, for the record. See, according to your former beau, you received a few political favors in exchange for a bedroom nookie. You're not funny. Just say in exchange for sex. It's not a hard word to type out. Not unlike the street-walking whore who exchanges sexual favors. Again, just say sex, for the love of God. For cash or blow. See what I did there? Yes, and you aren't at all clever. Look, you have the right, and you have every right in the world to be a skank. Your body, your choice, as you're fond of saying. Should you choose to use your front hole in lieu of talent, she was still elected to several positions. If this was her only political career, or political office holding, but this was the only office she held, I could understand, but she still won elections. And currently, she has the most in small dollar donations. Except, as I recall, you appointed yourself the leader of the looted Me Too movement. No, she didn't. She never did that. Which I think would frown upon ladies selling their sexuality to men in positions of power. No, it was just an anti-rape movement. Now you're talking about taking rights away from Americans, simply because your rabid base of California crazies are all about that fascism. Actually, if she was a radical leftist, she'd be an anarchist. Just going to make that point real quick, because government is really only popular in the center of the political sphere. Oh no, I get it. You say you're against fascism, but come on. I think that was Peter Griffin's argument at one point. You and I both know the truth. You like it dirty. You are not funny. I cannot stress enough how unfunny you are. Every time I read one of your columns, it is one of the least funny things I've read. The only thing I could possibly beat the complete lack of humor in a Courtney Khrushchev column are other Courtney Khrushchev columns. You are somehow less funny than Ann Coulter. At least I could sort of chuckle at some of the things she said. At your town hall event with Jake Tapper, you said the Second Amendment has no place in society. That's a downright lie, and I know that's a lie because you posted the actual quote. Allow me to read it for you. You can be in favor of the Second Amendment, doesn't sound like she's saying it has no place in society, and also understand that there is no reason in a civil society that we have assault weapons around communities that can kill babies and police officers. That's actually a decent point, especially considering that, well, there are bullets, I believe armor-piercing ones, that were literally nicknamed cop killers. While we're on that topic, it has been established time and time again that there are certain guns you can ban without violating the Second Amendment. That's why, for instance, fully automatics have been banned for over 30 years. I just love it how when it comes to guns, suddenly you care about killing babies. Since you're a pro-abortion, baby-killing apologist. Maybe the only way for leftists like yourself to make amends with the scary black rifles is if they were used to kill fetuses. To be clear, I am against abortions that involve guns. Mostly because I don't think that would work very well. Kamala, while you're considering who to screw next, for the record, she only has one example of this from several years ago. Do me a favor, define assault weapons. Weapons that were banned under the Assault Weapon Ban Act of 1994. The one that expired 10 years later because Republicans just refused to vote on it. Remember that one, Courtney? And this is where she, of course, jumps on while George W. Bush was on a true conservative train, despite the fact she accused Donald of parroting Michael Moore talking points when he went after Bush in a GOP debate, who is now her favorite person in the whole wide world on a side note. Courtney Krischoff has no ideology is what I'm saying, and it's actually getting very annoying. The rest of the column is bland, and I refuse to read any more of it. Anyway, let's introduce a new person who I don't think we've covered yet. Ladies and gentlemen, meet Allie Stuckey, aka Conservative Millennial, who has a show on, I guess now The Blaze, previously known as CRTV. I've seen her tweets going around, however, I saw this recently from Town Hall, and I just couldn't help but laugh. This is a response to the New York abortion bill we covered last week. Thank you, New York, in which she argues this will actually mean the pro-life movement is succeeding. Side note, notice how they never ever do this the other way around. You know, there's never been an article where she argues that a pro-life legislation is helping the pro-choice movement. I remember I summed this up just after the midterm election, where I wrote like a tweet that just said, writing a column about how this election was actually very good for the rent's too damn high party. Expected to get 1 million clicks. New York's Reproductive Health Care Act decriminalizes abortion through all 9 months. Wait, decriminalizes or legalizes? I know that may sound like splitting hairs, but I just read a Courtney Krischoff article, so I'm a little bit grumpy at the moment. Defines person as human being who has been born and is alive. Okay, that makes sense. And as the caveat of health of the mother. Again, that's already been previously established. Even Steven Crowder admitted that. A purposely undefined term meant to include all factors outlined in Dole v. Bolton. How dare New York follow previous Supreme Court rulings, which are entirely based on the Constitution, that may impact the well-being of the patient, including the mental and emotional stability, family situation, and age. Again, makes sense. Depressed after losing your job and getting dumped by your boyfriend at 36 weeks pregnant? Wait a minute. I thought one of the biggest problems society was facing was the amount of parents who were simply not married. Remember when that was the big thing? You're just admitting that this parent is not married, and therefore she should still be a mother? A single mother at that? No problem. New York will make sure you can have the abortion you say you need. All they'll have to do is induce labor, practically deliver the baby, make an incision at the base of the skull, and vacuum out its content. Piece of cake. For the record, I've said this before, I have read into late-term abortion and do find it to be very disgusting. That's also why I'm very happy that the people who perform them, or the people who get them at least, are not parents. Don't let anyone try to tell you late-term abortion protected in this bill is reserved for women whose lives are at risk. First, taking the life of a child in the 3rd trimester does nothing to protect the life of the mother. Debatable. Second, if that were the case, the bill would be unnecessary, as it was already the law in New York. Okay, pointless legislation is passed all the time. Can we go now? That practices could perform abortion through all 9 months to save the mother's life. health was added in this act to ensure that women had greater access to it should they desire. Okay? Are you going to get to the point now? The Reproductive Health Act has nothing to do with reproductive health at all. I see someone's been reading 1984. Based on political jargon rather than science and fundamentally devalues unborn life. Well, let me think. Oh no. We only need to look throughout history to see what happens when people in power dehumanize a vulnerable group. Slavery, the Holocaust, Japanese internment camps, segregation, sex trafficking. Okay, let's go down a little bit in this column. Very few on the pro-choice side are willing to acknowledge that abortion brutally kills a child. It is simply the removal of a clump of cells. It is even difficult to find an online exploitation of the abortion procedure that actually calls an unborn baby anything other than tissue. Now, those are both correct, mind you. If they're not made of cells and tissue, then please explain to me what they are made out of. Dogs? Boxes? My microphone? But let's actually look at those. So that is a completely true statement, mind you. You can argue whether or not it's relevant, but the fact is it's true. Let's actually look at the arguments made for those other claims. Slavery. Now, we'll assume she's referring to American slavery, because there's been slavery all throughout human history, and she's very vague here. That was mostly based around the argument that cheap labor, that it would result in more labor and therefore lead to more products. This was proven wrong as productivity exploded after slavery was gone. Some could say that's also because of automation, but at the same time, it was increasing before then, so. The Holocaust was based on the idea that Jews are the reason why Germany lost World War I. There was also anti-Semitism in Europe going back centuries before then, mainly due to the idea that the Jews killed Jesus. However, that was the main reason for that specific anti-Semitic event, was the idea the Jews were the reason why Germany lost the First World War. That was not true, of course. Japanese internment camps were mostly based around the idea that every Japanese American worked for the Japanese government, which was kind of a big deal considering that they just bombed us at Pearl Harbor. Segregation is a little bit more difficult. The excuse given for segregation was that black people, even though they were separate, were treated equally, hence separate but equal. Of course, that was nonsense, as the people who believed in equal didn't believe in separate, and the people who believed in separate did not believe in equal. And I'm not even going to count sex trafficking as an example, because no mainstream politician is in favor of sex trafficking. If you can point me to one in the United States, please inform me of this, and you know what? I'll be just as angry at them as you are. I promise. They were, and are, in the case of sex slavery, but not in the case of normal slavery, despite that actually still happening. Yeah, I'm not making that up. There are like 1 million slaves in India. Heck, Africa has tons of them. Justified by the irrational and unscientific claim that the victims are less than because of some immutable characteristic. No, they weren't. That's just only one of them. That was the explicit and main argument made, and that was with slavery. And even then, there were other reasons given. They were all stupid at best and awful at worst. Do not get me wrong, but you're whitewashing history quite a bit here. Also, hate to be that guy, but being a Jew isn't an immutable characteristic. It's a religion. Like, I know splitting hairs, but this column is very stupid, so I'm just pointing that out too. Their race, religion, nationality, age, species. Oh wait, now I'm a crazy leftist again. Also, religion is not an immutable characteristic. You can convert from religions. It's not very hard. Now, mind you, in the case of the Holocaust, it was a little bit more complicated, because if they said you were a Jew, you were a Jew. And if you were a Jew at any point, they did round you up. There's actually an interesting book, I want to say. It was a novel. And one of the characters was a guy who converted to Lutheranism, specifically to avoid going to the concentration camps. It didn't work. And that is historically accurate, for the record. This is also the second column where somebody very much misunderstands fascism. And it's not even the main problem. The strong man profits off the defenselessness of the weak. Oh man, that sounds like most of human history. Actually, that sounds kind of like the Marxist definition of capitalism. Ali, are you a communist? So it is with abortion today, skipping the part I already read. Dehumanization helps soothe the shame and is necessary for the public persona of abortion to remain positive. It really isn't, quite frankly. There are tons of pro-lifers out there. I mean, none of them are going to end abortion ever. I'm just going to be blunt with you then and there. But they do exist. This is the central aim of Democrats since Planned Parenthood, the nation's #1 abortion provider, is a key donor to the party. So let's get money out of politics. No, seriously, let's get money out of politics if that's really a big issue. That means Planned Parenthood won't be able to donate any more to the Democratic Party. And if you are right, that would also mean that no one would ever donate to, or federal tax money would never go to Planned Parenthood, and for that matter, there would be more pro-life legislators. So, you're on my side now. Welcome! Do you actually call for getting money out of politics at any point in this Of course not. The outrage in the wake of the law from pro-lifers, both conservative and moderate pro-lifers, is palpable. It's also encouraging. Christian influencers who otherwise are generally quiet on politics have spoken up about the importance of protecting unborn life. Notice the little contradiction there. I've received at least 100 messages from young women telling me how heartbroken and inspired they are to volunteer and donate to their local pregnancy centers. Praise God. Okay, they can do that. They have every right to open up centers that convince women abortion is wrong. I have the right to say that's wrong, and if I were a legislator, I'd have the right to pass legislation, or at least attempt to pass legislation, that would go against what these people say, but okay, they have that right too. I think and hope, emphasis on hope because it's never happening, that this act has shown otherwise ambivalent people exactly what the aim of the pro-choice movement has always been. Abortion on demand without apology through all 9 months. Depends on who you talk to. Like, you just mentioned moderate pro-lifers. I'd assume that means people who are pro-choice up to a certain point. So those people, that's not their goal. Most mainstream Democrats, that isn't their goal. Most, at least federally elected Democrats, that isn't their goal. Most recognizable pro-choice people, that's not really their goal. But, okay. Most people, whether the left likes it or not, just aren't on board with that. Then why haven't you won yet? It is clearer than ever that abortion was never about reproductive health or rights or freedoms. Little nitpick, but you should start using commas for lists. It's about feminist obsession with equality through homogeny. What? They believe that in order for women to truly be equal to men, all differentiations must be eliminated as much as possible. So since a man can physically walk away from an unwanted pregnancy, not really anymore, we have child support in this country. In fact, there's been a debate on whether or not we should give men more or less a financial version of abortion for a good decade now. That was actually one of the main talking points of the MRM quite a while ago. Now, whether or not you agree with that is besides the point, but that did happen. A woman should be able to as well. With that reasoning, it's easy to see why they want abortion permissible through all 9 months. It's crucial to their cause. No, that would make stricter child support more crucial to their cause, which it's already decently strict in the United States, and has been since the 90s. But reality is a stubborn thing, says this woman. No radical abortion legislation, no redefinition of gender or fed-up feminists can change the fact that while men and women are created equal, they are not created equally. Those words mean the same thing. They are not and never will be the same. You could have just said that. Women will always be the only people who can get pregnant. Okay. I could, nitpick and talk about, trans people, but nah, she doesn't believe in that, it seemed like. And therefore, it's not even worth addressing. They will always be the only people who have to deal with physically with the trauma of a miscarriage and abortion. And in the case of miscarriages, they should probably be arrested for manslaughter then. After all, well, they killed a life, and if you kill a life on accident, assuming they were already born, that's manslaughter, or neglect of a child, or a variety of different things, depending on the exact circumstances. And you think I'm joking, but Utah actually tried to do that a couple years ago. And they and their children are the ones who will be hurt most by this atrociously immoral bill. Everything I don't like is morally wrong. Those of us who have managed to escape the illogic of this Orwellian age, there's that rule that if you can vocally decry something as Orwellian, it probably isn't. Now, I don't normally believe that, for the record, but as far as I am aware, at least, there is nowhere in the U.S. where it is illegal to be pro-life. If you can point me to an example where it is, then I will happily be just as angry about it as you are. Understand this, and our eyes are open, for many more than ever. Our motivation to pray, to serve mothers in crisis, to donate our resources to the centers and organizations saving lives, and to speak about the horrors of abortion has been fiercely renewed. My God, it needed renewal? Like half of what I talk about on this show is pro-lifers. This is you at your low point? So for that, New York, thank you. You've helped the pro-life cause more than you know. And I assume you'll write the same article the next time another bill to legalize some form of abortion comes out. And the next time, and the next time, and the next time, and the next time, until you eventually, you're a Republican, so you'll never realize you're actually wrong on something, but eventually, you'll be unable to write for one reason or another. To be clear, I am not encouraging anyone to do that. It should be the forces of nature, not humans. I'm Ephrom. Good night.